Hi, and welcome to one of Like's online IBT TOEFL preparation videos. Today's topic is creative conclusions. One of the more difficult parts of your essay will be writing an effective conclusion. The conclusion is important because it is the last thing that your reader will remember about your conclusion. A conclusion that does not end properly will have your reader wondering what your point really was. You should never end your conclusion by saying, "That's all I have to write about," or "the end." Instead, the reader should know that your essay is concluding because you have summarized the main points of your essay and given any final message that you have about your topic. Like your introduction, the conclusion has three basic functions. The first function is to summarize the main points of your essay. The second function is to present your final message about your opinion. The third function is that your conclusion should be creative and interesting so that it leaves a lasting impression on the reader. The focus of today's topic will be how to write a creative and interesting conclusion. Many of the techniques that we have learned about when talking about introductions can be used again when writing your conclusion. Your conclusion should summarize the main points of your essay. Essentially, your conclusion acts as a review of your message. Your conclusion echoes the introduction, which means that your conclusion should be similar to your introduction. You may want to use some of the same creative techniques that you do in your introduction in your conclusion. For example, if you tell a story in your introduction, you may want to tell a similar story in your conclusion. Alternatively, you could begin a story in your introduction and then finish the story in your conclusion. Or, if your introduction previews the message of your essay, your conclusion could highlight the message of your essay. However, you must be careful that your conclusion does not merely repeat your introduction. Instead, your conclusion should echo your introduction, which means that it restates the information using very different sentences. Using rhetoric in your essay is kind of like using special effects, or CG, in a movie. It is designed to create an effect for the reader. One type of rhetoric is known as the rhetorical question. We have learned in a previous video that rhetorical questions are questions that do not need to be answered directly by the reader. Instead, they arouse curiosity in the reader about the topic. In your conclusion, a rhetorical question should give the audience something to think about. For example, if you were given the TOEFL topic which asks you to write about which is better for your country, development or preserving the environment, An effective conclusion could look something like this. I have shown in this essay that our environment is in trouble. We are using up natural resources quicker than they can be replaced. Pollution is affecting the air we breathe and the water that we drink. If something is not done soon, our children will not have much of a planet to call home. So, you must ask yourself this: what can you do to make a change for the environment? How can you help Mother Earth? These questions are not meant to be answered directly by the reader, but instead help him or her think about your message. Stories have been used to entertain and inform people for as long as people have been able to tell them. Stories are effective because they are remembered longer than facts or figures. Using a story in an essay can help the reader to experience your message. In the conclusion, a story can help summarize the essay in an easy-to-understand way. If you begin your introduction with a story, you may want to conclude your essay with a similar one, or by referring to the original story. Using a brief quoted expression can be an effective way of ending your essay. As we have learned in previous videos, a quotation is a sentence or expression stated already by a famous or well-known historical figure. If you begin your essay with a quote from a well-known historical figure, a similar quote from the same person may be an effective way to end your essay. Alternatively, if you use a quote based on the same theme as your original quote, that can give your essay a sense of closure. A metaphor is another type of rhetoric technique. A metaphor takes something which is seemingly unrelated to your topic and shows that there is actually a relationship. A metaphor is a comparison between, for example, the message of your essay given the TOEFL question and the different topic, which is more important, how they might be similar, physical appearance or characteristics. You could use the metaphor of the ugly duckling to help explain your conclusion. The Ugly Duckling is a story about a young bird who looks very different from all of the other ducklings around it. But when the duckling grows up, it finds out that it is not a duck at all, but rather a beautiful swan. This shows how physical appearance is not, or should not be, the most important part of a society. An appropriate metaphor can be a memorable way of ending your conclusion. Just like the introduction, there are a lot of different techniques that you can use to make a creative and interesting conclusion. Remember, the conclusion is the last thing that your reader will read in your essay, so you want to make sure it's a good one. Keep those creative juices flowing, use your imagination, and good luck.